My family sent me a message that read, "You're dead to us, never reach out again," so I decided to show them what silence really costs. My name is Chloe Hayes, and at 32 years old, I had become the invisible engine keeping my relatives afloat. I work as a freelance wedding coordinator, and for years I've been covering their apartment rent, their electricity bills, and my older brother's endless get-rich schemes. They never phoned to ask how I was doing, only when a payment was due. Last Saturday, I drove to my parents' house in Dallas hoping for a rare evening of genuine connection. Instead, I walked straight into a trap. My brother Marcus didn't even let the barbecue coals cool before demanding $50,000 for his revolutionary fashion line. My parents nodded along, their voices sharp, insisting I owed it to the family. I said no. The air went ice cold. Their stares cut deeper than any insult. I left with my heart slamming against my ribs, knowing I had crossed an invisible line. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from my parents. "You are no longer part of this family. Please don't contact us." My fingers trembled as I typed back, "Don't worry, my wallet won't bother you either." 5 minutes later, 23 missed calls flooded my screen. Their panic told me everything. They needed my money, not me. That moment lit a match inside me. I was finished being their personal ATM. What came next changed my life completely, and I'm ready to share every detail. Have you ever felt like your only value to your family was what you could provide financially? Drop a comment below if you've ever been treated like a bank account instead of a daughter or son. And let me rewind to that Saturday night in my parents' backyard. I had driven to their Dallas home hoping for a rare scrap of family warmth, maybe a laugh over old photos. Instead, I stepped into an ambush. Marcus didn't even wait for the burgers to come off the grill. "Chloe, I need 50 grand, he said, his voice oily and smooth like a used car salesman. "My new streetwear boutique is a goldmine, high-end exclusives. It's a sure thing." His eyes locked onto mine, brimming with that familiar cocktail of charm and entitlement. I had heard this speech before: his artisanal coffee shop that crashed, his food truck that never rolled. Every time I had emptied my savings to keep him floating. But this time my stomach turned. I wasn't sure I could do it again. Before I could answer, my father cut in. "Chloe, you have to step up for your brother," he said, his voice heavy like I was failing some unspoken exam. "Family sticks together." My mother leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "It's your responsibility to help," she said, each word slicing through the warm night air. Responsibility. That word landed like a boulder on my chest. For years I had been their safety net, paying their rent, covering utilities, even footing the bill for Marcus's car insurance when he forgot to pay. I had always told myself that this was love, that family meant sacrifice. But standing there, their expectant faces staring me down, I felt like a cash machine, not a daughter. I took a slow breath, my fingers gripping the edge of my chair. "I can't," I said, my voice quieter than I intended. "I've already paid so much. Your rent, $3,000 a month. Utilities, another $500. Marcus's insurance, his business loans. Last year alone I shelled out $22,000 to keep all of you going." I paused, scanning their faces for a flicker of gratitude. There was none. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's lips pursed as if I had insulted her. Marcus leaned back, crossing his arms, a smirk crawling across his face. "You're sitting on all that wedding planning cash," he said, loud enough for the whole garden to hear. "And you're too selfish to help your own brother." Unbelievable. Selfish. The word hit like a punch, echoing in my ears. I felt every eye on me, cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors, all invited to the barbecue. Their stares burned, branding me the villain. My throat closed up, and for a moment I wanted to cave, to write the check just to make it stop. I had done that before, smoothed things over, kept the peace. But something snapped inside me. I wasn't the one breaking this family. I was the one holding it together, and they couldn't even see it. "I'm not selfish," I said, my voice steadier now, rising above the murmurs. "I have given everything I have. When does it stop?" No one answered. The silence was louder than their words. Aunt Karen, who had been watching quietly from the edge of the table, caught my gaze. She didn't speak, but her eyes held a softness that felt like a lifeline. Later, as I pretended to rearrange the dessert plates, my phone buzzed. Her text read, "Chloe, you don't owe them an apology. You've carried them long enough." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. Karen had always been the one who saw through the chaos, the one who never bought into the family's demands. Her words were a spark, a reminder that I wasn't crazy for wanting to say no. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my hands shaking, torn between guilt and a growing sense of defiance. "I need to go," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I pushed my chair back. The scrape against the patio cut through the tension. My mother called after me, "Chloe, don't make a scene." Marcus snorted, muttering something about me being dramatic. I didn't look back. I walked through the garden gate, their voices fading behind me, and climbed into my car. As I sat there gripping the steering wheel, my mind spun. I had spent years believing my role was to keep them afloat, rent, bills, Marcus's dreams. But what if that wasn't love? What if it was just control? The thought hit me hard. Saying no wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming myself. Driving home, the Dallas skyline blurring past, I replayed the night in my head. Marcus's smirk, my mother's sharp words, my father's disappointment. None of it was new, but it all felt heavier now. I had always been the fixer, the one who paid to keep the peace, but peace at what cost? My savings were drained, my energy spent, and for what? To be called selfish in front of everyone. I pulled into my apartment complex, my hands still trembling. Karen's text glowed in my mind, a small beacon in the storm. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear: I couldn't keep living for their approval. For the first time, I wondered if I could let go not just of the money but of the guilt that chained me to them. Sunday morning, my phone lit up with a text that cut deep. It was from my parents. "You are no longer part of this family. Please don't contact us." The words hit like a blade, sharp and cold, slicing through years of sacrifices I had made for them. I sat on my couch, staring at the message, my breath shallow. For a moment I was a little girl again, desperate for their approval, terrified of being cast out. But then I remembered the night before, their demands, their accusations, the way they turned my no into betrayal. My hands trembled, not with fear but with something new, anger. I typed back, my fingers moving before I could overthink, "Don't worry, my money won't contact you either." I hit send, and the silence that followed felt like freedom. 5 minutes later, my phone exploded. 23 missed calls, Marcus, Mom, Dad, one after another, their names flashing like warning signs. Voicemails piled up, each one sharper than the last. Marcus's voice dripped with venom. "You abandoning us, Chloe. You'll regret this." My mother's message was softer but no less cutting. "How could you do this to us? We raised you." My father's was blunt. "You're ungrateful." I didn't listen to the rest. Their words were a chorus of blame, but I wasn't swayed. They weren't calling to apologize, they were calling because I had pulled the plug on their free ride. My money, the only thing they seemed to value, was now out of reach. I opened my banking app, my resolve hardening. For years I had covered their expenses, rent, utilities, even a credit card they used for emergencies that somehow included Marcus's new phone. I scrolled through the auto payments, $3,000 for their apartment, $600 for utilities, $1,200 for Marcus's credit card balance. My thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed cancel on each one. The confirmations popped up one by one and I felt a weight lift. I wasn't just cutting payments, I was cutting the strings they had tied around me. I imagined them opening their bills next month, realizing they were on their own. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of their reaction. I was ready for it. My phone rang again, but this time it was my boyfriend, Ethan. "Chloe, are you okay?" he asked, his voice steady, grounding me. I told him about the text, my reply, the barrage of calls. "You did the right thing," he said. "They can't keep using you like this. You're not their bank." His words echoed Aunt Karen's from the night before, and I felt a spark of clarity. I had spent years thinking I had to earn their love with my wallet. Ethan's voice pulled me back to reality. I didn't owe them my life. I thanked him, my voice catching, and he promised to come over later. For now, I needed to focus. I grabbed a notebook, my pen moving fast as I started listing every expense I had covered. Rent $36,000 last year, utilities $7,200, Marcus's car insurance $2,400, his business ventures, the coffee shop, the food truck, and now this boutique another $15,000. The numbers stared back at me, a ledger of my loyalty. I wasn't writing this for them. I was writing it for me, to see the truth in black and white. They had taken more than money, they had taken my peace. I decided to send them the list, not to argue but to make it clear I was done carrying their weight. I drafted an email, attaching the breakdown. My words were simple: "This is what I've paid. It ends now." I didn't hit send yet, I wanted to be sure. Sitting there, notebook in hand, I felt a shift. Their text had been meant to break me, to guilt me into giving more. But it had done the opposite. It showed me who they are when I say no. They didn't call to fix things, they called to keep me in line. I set the notebook down, my mind racing but clear. This wasn't the end of the fight, but it was the start of something new. I wasn't just walking away from their demands, I was walking toward myself. The next day, my Instagram notifications started blowing up. I was at my desk trying to focus on a client's wedding mood board when my phone vibrated so much it nearly fell off the table. I opened the app and saw Marcus's post staring back at me, a photo of my parents' empty apartment, boxes stacked in a corner with the caption, "When your sister chooses money over family." My stomach twisted, not from guilt but from sheer audacity. He had spun the story to make me the villain, as if I hadn't been paying their bills for years. The post already had dozens of likes and the comments were piling up, each one a new jab at my character. I scrolled down and froze. An old friend, Stacy Miller, had commented, "Heartless, I can't believe Chloe would do this to her own family." She shared the post to her story, adding a broken heart emoji for extra drama. Stacy and I hadn't been close in years, but her words stung, amplifying Marcus's attack to her thousands of followers. I could feel the judgment spreading like wildfire through our old social circles. My phone buzzed again, a text from a coworker, Jen. "Hey Chloe, you okay?" Marcus's post is going around our group chat. People are talking. I stared at the message, my pulse racing. That group chat was full of mutual friends, colleagues, even clients. This wasn't just family drama anymore, it was public humiliation. I wanted to fire back, to tell the world how I had bankrolled their lives, rent, utilities, Marcus's failed ventures. But I stopped myself. Responding would only fuel the fire, giving Marcus and Stacy the attention they craved. Instead, I took a breath and opened my messages. There was one from my cousin, Nora. "Chloe, I saw the post. Your family is out of line. They've been taking advantage of you forever. You don't deserve this." Her words were a lifeline cutting through the noise. Nora had always been the one who got it, the rare family member who didn't see me as a cash machine. I typed a quick reply, "Thanks, Nora. That means a lot." Her support steadied me, but the weight of the post lingered. I set my phone down and tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting to the comments. Strangers were chiming in now. What kind of sister does that? Family first always. Each one felt like a needle pricking at my resolve. I had spent years building a reputation as an event planner, reliable, professional, kind. Now Marcus's post was painting me as a selfish traitor. I wondered how many clients had seen it, how many would question working with me. The thought made my chest ache, but I pushed it aside. I didn't start this fight, and I wouldn't let their lies define me. To ground myself, I opened my banking app again. I needed to be sure every tie was cut. I scrolled through my transaction history, double-checking the auto payments I had cancelled the day before. The confirmations were there, each one marked cancelled. My account balance looked healthier already, but it wasn't about the money, it was about the freedom. I imagined Marcus checking his card, my parents opening their next bill, realizing I was no longer their safety net. The thought brought a flicker of satisfaction, but also a pang of sadness. I hadn't wanted it to come to this. I leaned back in my chair, staring at my laptop screen. The wedding mood board was still open, a reminder of the life I was building for myself. Marcus's post, Stace's comment, the group chat gossip, they were loud, but they weren't the truth. I chose not to reply, not to engage. Let them talk. I was done explaining myself to people who only valued what I could give them. Nora's message sat in my mind, a quiet anchor. I wasn't alone in this. For now, I closed Instagram and turned off my notifications. The world could wait, I had work to do and a life to reclaim. Tuesday evening, I was sitting in my apartment with Ethan. The silence between us was comfortable, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past few days. My phone was off, notifications silenced after the Instagram storm. Ethan looked at me, his eyes soft but serious. "Chloe, you don't have to keep proving yourself to them," he said, his voice steady. "Love isn't about how much you pay. You are enough without their demands." His words landed gently, unraveling a knot I had carried for years. I had always thought I had to give money, time, energy to be worthy of my family's affection. Ethan's reassurance felt like permission to let that go, to see myself beyond their expectations. I nodded, my throat tight, grateful for his clarity. A knock at the door interrupted us. It was Aunt Karen, her face warm but tinged with concern. She sat down, clutching a cup of tea I offered her. "I heard about the post," she said, shaking her head. "But there's something else. Your parents used your money to buy a 65-inch TV last month, $2,000, top of the line. They bragged about it at a family dinner but never mentioned you." Her words hit like a punch I hadn't seen coming. I had been covering their rent, thinking it was for necessities, while they splurged without a word of thanks. Karen's voice softened. "You've given them everything, Chloe. They don't get to demand more." Her honesty grounded me, shining a light on their entitlement. The next morning, I sat in Dr. Maria Chen's office, my first therapy session. She leaned forward, her voice calm but probing. "What does freedom mean to you, Chloe?" The question caught me off guard. I stumbled, then said, "Not feeling like I owe them my life." Dr. Chen nodded, encouraging me to dig deeper. We talked about my role in the family, how I had tied my worth to their needs. It dawned on me that I had mistaken their dependence for love. Every check I wrote, every bill I paid, it was me chasing approval that never came. The realization stung, but it was also liberating. I wasn't just their daughter, I was a person with my own limits. Back home, I pulled out my laptop and started mapping out a plan. I called the utility companies, electric, water, internet, and requested to transfer the accounts to my parents' names. I contacted their landlord, explaining I was no longer covering the rent. Each call felt like peeling off a layer of obligation. I drafted a letter to send with the account details, keeping it simple. These are now your responsibility. I'm not cutting you off out of spite. I'm giving you what you demanded, independence. The process was tedious, but each step made me feel lighter, like I was reclaiming pieces of myself. That night, I opened my journal, something I hadn't touched in months. I wrote about the relief washing over me, the way Ethan's words echoed in my mind, Karen's story about the TV, Dr. Chen's question. I am not their ATM anymore, I scribbled in bold letters. I am allowed to say no. The act of writing it down felt like a promise to myself. For the first time, I saw a future where my worth wasn't measured by what I gave. I closed the journal, my heart steady, ready for whatever came next. Wednesday morning, I was setting up a wedding when Marcus burst in. The venue was buzzing with vendors arranging tables, but his entrance silenced the room. He wasn't alone. A slick-talking guy in a tailored suit followed him, his eyes scanning my work like a predator sizing up prey. I froze, my hands clutching a string of fairy lights. Marcus's face was flushed, his voice loud. Chloe, we need to talk. Now. The florist glanced over, but I waved her off, trying to keep this professional. My heart raced, but I wasn't the same person who had caved under pressure last week. I was done running. The man in the suit stepped forward, his tone smooth but menacing. Your brother's boutique is a goldmine, Chloe. Invest 50 grand, or I'll make sure every client in Dallas knows you abandoned your family. His words were a calculated threat aimed at my reputation as an event planner. I had spent years building trust with clients, and he was trying to weaponize that. My jaw tightened, but I held his gaze. You're not getting a dime, I said, my voice steady. Marcus scoffed, pacing the room, and in his agitation he bumped into a floral backdrop. The delicate structure collapsed, petals scattering, a $5,000 centerpiece ruined. The vendors gasped, and I felt a surge of anger. This is my work. My space. Get out, I said, pointing to the door. Both of you. I've transferred every account, rent, utilities, everything to Mom and Dad's names. You're on your own. Marcus's eyes widened, like he hadn't believed I would follow through. The man in the suit smirked, unfazed. You'll regret this, he said. But I didn't flinch. I had faced their threats before on Instagram, in voicemails, at family dinners. This time I wasn't backing down. They lingered as if expecting me to crack, but I stood firm. Finally they turned and left, Marcus muttering under his breath. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my voice calm but firm. I need to report an incident at my workplace. I told the dispatcher everything, the disruption, the damage, the threat. The vendors watched wide-eyed as I gave the details. Inside, I was furious, but I kept my composure. This wasn't just about flowers, it was about protecting what I had built. The dispatcher promised an officer would follow up, and I hung up, my hands shaking with a mix of adrenaline and resolve. I had never called the police before, but I wasn't letting them intimidate me in my own space. I stepped outside for air, the morning sun warm on my face. I texted Ethan, Marcus and some guy just showed up at work. They trashed a backdrop, but I stood my ground. I'm okay. His reply came fast, proud of you, Chloe. You've got this. His words anchored me, a reminder that I wasn't alone. I thought about the past week, the garden argument, the disowning text, the Instagram post. Each time I had chosen myself, and it was starting to feel right. Marcus and his partner could push, but they couldn't break me. I was building something stronger now, a life on my terms. A week later, I was sipping tea at a local cafe when Nora texted. Her message popped up, Marcus's boutique tanked. He's working part-time at a supermarket now. I paused, the steam from my cup curling in the air. I had expected his business to fail. His track record with coffee shops and food trucks was proof enough. But seeing it confirmed felt different. There was no satisfaction, just a quiet acknowledgement that his choices, not mine, had led to this. Marcus had always banked on my money to bail him out, but without it, he was facing reality. I replied to Nora, "Guess he'll have to figure it out." My tone was calm, but inside I was processing the weight of his downfall. Nora sent another text, this one heavier. "Your parents got an eviction notice. They couldn't pay the rent." My chest tightened, not with guilt, but with a strange mix of sadness and clarity. My parents had relied on me for years, never planning for a day when I would stop. I had transferred their accounts, giving them a chance to take responsibility, but they didn't. Now the landlord's notice was their consequence. I pictured them packing boxes, the same ones Marcus had photographed for his Instagram post. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had called me heartless, but their refusal to adapt had brought them here. I opened Instagram, curious if the drama had escalated. Stacy had posted again, a long rant accusing me of abandoning my family, calling me cold-blooded. But the response was different this time. Only a handful of likes, a few vague comments. The fire she had tried to stoke was fizzling out. People were moving on, uninterested in her recycled narrative. I felt a flicker of relief. Her words still stung, but they were losing power. The world wasn't buying her story anymore, and neither was I. I closed the app, choosing not to engage, just as I had done before. My silence was my strength. My phone pinged with an email from a recent client, the bride from last week's wedding. "Chloe, your work was flawless. The event was magical. Our guests are still talking about it." I smiled, warmth spreading through me. This was what I had built, a career, a reputation, a life that was mine. The client's praise was a reminder that my value wasn't tied to my family's demands. I forwarded the email to my team, proud of what we had accomplished despite the chaos. Their drama couldn't touch this part of me. Back at my apartment, I pulled out a notepad and wrote, "I didn't betray them. I stopped enabling their dependence." The words flowed easily, a truth I had been circling for weeks. Every payment I had made, rent, utilities, Marcus's ventures, was me trying to buy their love. But love doesn't work that way. Stopping wasn't betrayal, it was setting myself free. I stared at the note, feeling its weight. It wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration of who I was becoming. I tucked the notepad away, a quiet promise to keep choosing myself. Later that evening, Nora texted again. I left the family group chat. "I'm done with their guilt trips. You're doing the right thing, Chloe. I'm with you." Her words hit me like a wave of gratitude. Nora had always been the one who saw through the family's expectations, and now she was standing by me. I replied, "Thank you, Nora. That means everything." Her decision to leave the chat mirrored my own journey, cutting ties with toxicity, choosing authenticity over obligation. I sat back, my heart lighter, knowing I wasn't alone in this fight. A month later, my apartment felt like a sanctuary, not a war zone. The quiet hum of my morning routine, brewing coffee, planning events, brought a peace I hadn't known was possible. My bank account no longer bled for rent or utilities that weren't mine. I was free from the weight of my family's expectations, and it was like breathing for the first time in years. I walked to my desk, sunlight streaming through the window, and felt a spark of joy in the life I was building. My work as an event planner thrived, my days filled with clients who valued me for my skill, not my wallet. This freedom wasn't just financial, it was emotional. A reclaiming of my own space. An envelope arrived in the mail. The handwriting was unmistakably my mother's. Inside was a letter, her tone softer than before. "Chloe, let's meet and reconcile. We're still family." My first instinct was to hope, but I paused. Her words sounded like peace, but they echoed the same guilt trips I had heard for years. I wrote back, my pen steady. "I wish you well, Mom, but I'm done carrying your burdens. My boundaries stay." I mailed the response, feeling no anger, only resolve. I wasn't closing the door forever, but I was choosing who I let in. My mother's letter didn't change that. Ethan and Nora had become my chosen family. Their presence was a warmth that felt like home. Ethan's laugh filled my evenings, his steady support a reminder that love doesn't demand sacrifice. Nora checked in regularly, her texts full of encouragement. "You're killing it, Chloe." We met for brunch, swapping stories about work and dreams, no strings attached. Their belief in me was unconditional, a stark contrast to the family I had once chased. With them, I wasn't an ATM or a fixer, I was just Chloe, and that was enough. Their love was a gift, not a transaction. In my latest session with Dr. Chen, she asked, "How do boundaries protect you?" I thought for a moment, then said, "They keep my worth intact." Dr. Chen nodded, her eyes kind but sharp. We talked about how I used to equate giving with being valued, how I had let my family's needs define me. Setting boundaries, saying no, stepping back, it had shown me my own strength. Dr. Chen's words lingered, "You are not responsible for their choices." I left her office feeling grounded. My sense of self was no longer tied to their approval. Therapy wasn't a fix, but it was a map guiding me toward clarity. Looking back, I see the lesson this journey has taught me. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're how you stay true to yourself. For years I thought love meant giving everything, money, time, energy, until there was nothing left of me. But real love doesn't drain you, it lifts you. By stepping away from my family's demands, I found my own voice, my own worth. I'm not the villain they painted, I'm just someone who finally chose herself. This story isn't about cutting people out, it's about choosing who you let in and choosing yourself first. To everyone who has followed this journey, thank you for listening. Your support means the world. I hope my story resonates, whether you're facing family drama or learning to set your own boundaries. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What has your experience been with standing up for yourself? And if this story spoke to you, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's keep the conversation going because we're all learning how to live true to ourselves.